Negotiating contracts, key terms and conditions. Title: Negotiating contracts, key terms and conditions. Introduction. Negotiating contracts is an essential skill in today's business landscape. It involves carefully navigating through the terms and conditions that govern a business agreement to ensure that all parties involved are protected and their interests are met. In this article, we will delve into the key terms and conditions that are typically negotiated when drafting a contract, helping you better understand the intricacies involved in this process. 1. Scope of work. The scope of work defines the specific tasks, responsibilities, and deliverables expected from each party involved in the contract. It is crucial to clearly outline the scope of work, ensuring that all parties have a shared understanding of their obligations. This section should be detailed, leaving no room for ambiguity or misinterpretation. 2. Performance and payment terms. Performance and payment terms encompass the criteria for measuring performance and the agreed-upon payment structure. These terms may include milestones, deadlines, quality standards, payment schedule, and penalty clauses for non-performance or late payment. It is essential to negotiate and define these terms meticulously to maintain transparency and accountability. 3. Confidentiality and non-disclosure. Confidentiality and non-disclosure clauses safeguard sensitive information exchanged between parties during the execution of a contract. These provisions prohibit the unauthorized disclosure, use, or distribution of confidential information, protecting trade secrets, proprietary data, and other confidential materials. Negotiating clear and enforceable terms in this area is vital for protecting key parties' business interests and maintaining trust. 4. Intellectual property rights. Intellectual property, IP, rights refer to the legal ownership and protection of creations, inventions, and original works. Contracts often address the transfer, licensing, or ownership of IP rights, outlining how they will be utilized and protected during and after the agreement. Properly negotiating these terms prevents disputes and ensures that both parties' IP rights are adequately addressed. 5. Termination and dispute resolution. Termination and dispute resolution clauses define the circumstances under which either party may terminate the contract and the process for resolving any disagreements. Negotiating these terms is crucial to protect the parties' interests in case of unforeseen circumstances or contract breaches. It is essential to include provisions for alternative methods of dispute resolution, such as mediation or arbitration, to avoid costly litigation. 6. Indemnification and limitation of liability. Indemnification clauses allocate responsibility for any damages or losses incurred during the contract period. These clauses outline the extent to which each party is liable for the consequences of error actions or negligence, protecting parties from potential liabilities. Negotiating these terms helps define the limits of liability and ensures that both parties are accountable for their actions. 7. Governing law and jurisdiction. Governing law and jurisdiction provisions establish which laws will govern the contract and which courts or arbitration forums will have jurisdiction over any legal disputes. 8. Force majeure. Force majeure clauses address unforeseen events or circumstances beyond the control of the parties that may impede the performance of the contract. Title: Negotiating Contracts, Key Terms and Conditions, continued. 9. Insurance and liability. Insurance and liability clauses outline the insurance requirements and responsibilities of each party during the contract period. These terms define the types and amounts of insurance coverage needed. to protect against potential risks and liabilities. Negotiating these clauses ensures that both parties have appropriate insurance coverage and understand their respective roles and responsibilities. In case of any unforeseen incidents. 10. Representation and warranties. Representation and warranties clauses are statements made by one party to assure the other party of certain facts or conditions. These clauses ensure that both parties have accurate and truthful info. Information about the contract subject matter, performance expectations, and legal compliance. Negotiating clear and precise representation and warranties terms helps prevent misunderstandings and disputes over misrepresented or inaccurate information. 11. Assignment and subcontracting. Assignment and subcontracting clauses address the ability of either party to assign its rights and obligations under the contract to a third party or subcontract certain aspects of the work. Negotiating these clauses helps maintain control and accountability throughout the contract period. 12. Change control. Change control clauses outline the process for requesting and approving changes to the contract's terms, scope, or deliverables. These terms ensure that any changes are properly documented, reviewed, and agreed upon by both parties to avoid misunderstandings and scope creep. Negotiating change control provisions helps maintain the contract's integrity, avoids disruptions, and promotes effective communication and collaboration. 13. Force majeure. Continuing from the previous section, force majeure clauses address unforeseen events or circumstances beyond the control of the parties that may impede the performance of the contract. It is crucial to define the scope of force majeure events and their impact on the contract's performance. 14. Entire agreement. The entire agreement clause confirms that the written contract represents the complete understanding and agreement of the parties involved. It states that any previous oral or written agreements or understandings outside the contract are not valid unless explicitly incorporated. Negotiating an entire agreement clause provides parties with clarity and prevents disputes based on prior or external agreements. 15. Severability. Severability clauses state that if any provision of the contract is deemed invalid or unenforceable, the remaining provisions will remain in full force and effect. 16. Confidentiality of personal data. Confidentiality of personal data clauses address the protection and privacy of personal information shared between parties during the contract. These clauses ensure compliance with applicable data protection laws and outline the measures that will be taken to safeguard personal data from unauthorized access, use, or disclosure. Negotiating these terms helps establish trust and accountability in